Thanks for making an appointment with a stranger from the internet.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. I see you're in Austin.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Austin. We could have done this in person.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Happy to meet up, and definitely you're in Austin. We got to test your cellular health. We got to put your hand on our device and see where you're at.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That'd be cool. Um, so let me tell you a little bit about what I'm doing. I'm still kind of fleshing out the specific structure of the podcast.
Yeah.
But the motivation for it is I do marketing for acupuncturists. I went to school for acupuncture. I never started a clinic. I started a business while I was in school, and it kind of started catching wind right as I graduated. So I just stayed on that path. I always thought I'd circle back and start a practice at some point, and instead now I'm doing marketing for practitioners. Um, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of common themes that I encounter. Most practitioners are not doing that great financially, and most of them actually fail within the first 5 years. In addition to that, we're getting pressure from the feds right now. They're shutting down all the schools. I don't know if you heard Emperor's College in California is getting shut down.
Wow.
Oregon College, AOMA, on and on. I think there's about 10 schools that have been shut down so far. So it's one of those things where like what the Fed is saying, regardless of what you think the politics of natural versus allopathic medicine is, they have a point. Like 80% of practitioners can't make a living and they're saddled with a six-figure student loan. Obviously, there's a problem. And anybody that's gone through the curriculum knows they don't really teach you how to start a business. I think at some point, everybody goes through school focusing on the medicine and the patients. And it's only as you get close to graduation, you realize, oh shit, what do I do? Do I get a business loan? Do I sign a lease? Like how do we do this? And they just, the book, the two business classes that we had were from a book published in the 90s, pre-social media. And yeah, they don't really set you up for success when it comes to that. So what I'm hoping to do with the podcast is to address the common pitfalls and talk to practitioners that overcome them and kind of how you did that. And if there's any, whether it comes down to perspective or mindset, or it comes down to practical, actionable things that they can implement on their own, or what kind of support they need and when they need support. That's sort of what I want to focus on. So, inside of that, though, we can talk a little bit about the medicine and what you do and who you treat and those kinds of things too.
Yeah. Badass. I literally help a lot of other providers do two things: improve patient outcomes and add cash revenue to their practice. Like
Nice.
that's exactly what our business is and what it does. And it's not a small business. It's a Fortune 100, well-funded, publicly traded, has never lost its perfect credit rating for over 40 years, and has never had a
Wow.
recall on any product in 50 countries in 40 years. It's
Wow.
we're really um, the Trojan horse to turn this whole thing around, because our founding researchers were top executive scientists at Big Pharma. One of them is the former deputy director of chemical research at Wyeth. And
Wow.
they created statins, Rapamune, and birth control. That's Michael Chang, Joe Chang, Carl deGrassi. They don't like Big Pharma. They left 40 years ago.
Mhm.
And because they were studying nutritional compounds and their mechanisms of action to make synthetic drugs. You can't patent a natural thing. And yeah, the first product they tried to sell and did sell was fermented red yeast, specific, extraction, because that's where statins came from. And he was the man who invented statins. So he's like, I can fix your cardiac issues without the side effects. I'm the doc who, created that drug. I don't like it. And the federal government didn't like that. They sued him. He won because he had all the science, but farmers got deep pockets, and they lost in an appeal. But instead of shutting down shop, he gathered $40 million of investors so they could have their own lab on par with pharma. And he gathered his homies that were all talking about this. So 40 years later, you have over 80 international scientists across 12 PhDs working together to formulate nutritional supplements that are PDR listed, and we're the first product that was ever PDR listed. and the only one that has 100% money back guarantee that you can improve metabolic nutrition, cell function, and we can measure it and show you. That's the trick is like everyone's talking about nutrition, everyone's trying to sell you a supplement, a product, an herbal extract, but without the clinical support and data. They might quote science, but they don't perform the science on their product. Where that's where we're very
Right.
different is we have the lab, we have all the research staff, we perform the science on every single product there's clinicals on. And we have relationships with Stanford and Duke and all these other things. Plus, this device is $100,000 device, and it uses spectroscopy, a laser, just like the pulse ox on your finger. It measures oxygen in real time.
Mhm.
That's physics. That's Nobel Prize for physics from 1930. It's not new. It's old technology, but the application is new. Instead of biochemical research and manufacturing measuring down to parts per billion of a molecule, we're utilizing that with nutrition and measuring components inside your cell. That's a lie detector test on your lifestyle and diet and risk for disease, metabolic disease, which is 95% everything. So every patient is already asking about nutrition. Everyone's already asking about a supplement, and no one has the clinical data to back it up. Everyone's just using full script and whatever. It's like, hey, we actually own a genetics company, have screened 300 million genes, and can tell you that these components, these nutritional components, upregulate and downregulate these targeted genes for your gut barrier, for increasing glutathione production in your brain, improve memory with MRI, functional MRI brain studies. So it is that, and it's the mindset of how do we speak to the pain point of the provider, right? And it's all providers, whether it's a chiropractor. I mean, one of my best friends is a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, and his wife, and they have a practice in upstate New York. They live here in Austin. He flies every week to go back overseas for other traditional Chinese medicine doctors. He's been struggling for a while, and he had mast cell activation syndrome and excessive histamine and wound up in the ER just a couple weeks ago. And that's when he
Oh, wow.
finally called me and said, "Hey man, like I've tried everything that I know. Like shoot your shot. Like let's try what you got." His symptoms were relieved within 2 days, and by the end of the week he was symptom free and his tongue had changed. And
Wow.
a week later he's like, "Okay, let's get this integrated into my practice."
Wow. That's
We're
nuts. So how did you get into this? What was your what's your kind of your backstory, your origin story?
Yeah, curious kid. I love David Attenborough and Jacques Cousteau and National Geographics, and didn't care for chemistry too much, but I loved nature and how the world worked, and always deeply spiritual. I mean, a single kid, so I was a deep empath, and basically had to sift through feeling safe being around a bunch of adults. My mom liked to party a lot, and I was always safe, but I didn't know that as a child, so I had to sift through people's energy and figure out if I was safe, if their words were matching their energy, their intentions. And so just knowing that I was living in the Matrix before the movie Matrix came out, like, like, oh, like this, not as everything as it seems, and messed around with psychedelics at a very, very young age because I grew up in Houston and had access to it. And then took a break for a long time. But yeah, I started off at MD Anderson in cancer research and surgery, became a first assist. I've participated in every single surgery you can think of except for open heart, including kids, to pediatric, spine, brain, plastics, GYN. Don't really care for eyes and wanted to learn heart, but never wanted to be on the heart team. And became a director of private medical hospitals, Westlake and Arise, saw the corruption firsthand and billing and all kinds of stuff. And I went back to school for nutrition with a minor in biochem and genetics. And then this company reached out to me because I started using my voice, which I never wanted to do. I like talking to people in person. And basically, the universe and God said, "You have something to say, speak up." People need access to information to help them because the regular healthcare model is not working for anyone. And that's just it. And it was just like I was helping a lot of my docs. I was helping a lot of the PAs and anesthesia and scrub techs and other nurses. Um, and so I started my own business, coaching people, getting them off of meds, helping with nutrition and mindset. because I like to use it as we're just shifting here. And SHIFT is an acronym for Stress Harmonizing Insights for Transformation, where that stress can be metabolic, that stress can be your mindset, that stress can be trauma that you're holding on to, that stress can be a lack of radical ownership, where you're not a victim of circumstance, you're not a victim of how you grew up or what's happened to you, because you can't avoid bad things happening to you. It's the shift in perspective of what can I do about it. And to be an entrepreneur is freaking hard. Like, everyone wants your money, everyone wants to sell you on tools and things that you need, and most of it's BS. You really got to mess around and find out. And I had to start making content because that was free marketing. Couldn't afford to do marketing for myself, and it worked. People, they identified with authenticity, where I wasn't just blowing smoke. I wasn't just doing agitation marketing and fear mongering. I was educating people on problems and giving them actionable solutions and not being pushy about it. And I was saying, hey, this is not just my business, this is my way of life. This is my family. We have a 7-month-old. My wife's a nurse. She's business partner and helps me run this whole thing. I got to retire her from the hospital system. That's the only reason I'm still in the hospital system with this whole device and everything, because it was able to grow and help any provider or health professional learn how to do this and monetize it. And we're about to blow the doors off this whole thing, because in December, this very expensive device will be pocket size and be
Oh, wow.
$300, and we'll be able to mass produce them and ship them to 50 countries. And it's going to do two things. It's going to give people a physics-based lab test in their own home with future software updates for microbiome testing, genetics, and 25 other biomarkers, intracellular measurements more accurate than any lab test. No one knows it's coming. You're one of a few thousand people that know this is coming in the world. And now all these entrepreneurial docs that are moving to virtual practices, and health professionals and nurse coaches, all these people, now they can literally sell this device to their clients, their customers, and those people can measure themselves. They're also going to measure their loved ones, their family, their friends. They're going to network with it, and it will be able to create accounts tied back to the person that sold them the device, exponentially growing someone's ability to impact lives and to monetize while doing it. Prevention is absolutely profitable.
Interesting. So this reminds me of there was that, oh shoot, there's a documentary about a chick who dressed like Steve Jobs and was trying to come up with a
Theranos.
uh yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
exactly. I get that question a lot, and it's valid and it's true, and it's messed up that happened. We didn't create this device. The NIH created this device for disease risk and assessment and nutrient absorption. We bought the patent to the device, and we actually have 70 full-time scientists that are international. So we invite anyone to come to headquarters, come meet our scientists, come tour our labs, come sit in front of a panel of providers across multiple specialties, compounding pharmacists, acupuncture docs, chiropractors, hormone docs, pediatricians, chiropractors that are all utilizing the same stuff, and have all the science to back it up. We're not just making claims. We're saying, hey, do you want to listen? We got you. Come check out decades of research for you.
hmm So so the device that you just showed me, you put your hand on it and it works. How
It
does it work?
attaches to a tablet or a phone, and
Uh-huh.
you get a reading, and it's that simple. It's one simple score, because it's way over everyone's head, where it's like a credit score. It's just, you're high or low. The lower your score, it's like bankruptcy or low fuel, and it's a 60 to 90-day measurement. So it's not just what you had today. It's actually like an A1C, where it's measuring 60 to 90 days of nutrition inside your cell and systemic antioxidant protection. It's also protecting every receptor on your cell, protecting every ion channel. It's how everything bidirectionally gets in and out of every single cell in your body. You just can't outrun nutrition. So no one's measuring nutrition. When you're talking about all your lab markers, they're measuring inflammatory markers, interleukin 6, ESR, cytokines, all these things, or organ stress, organ function, or signs of infection. All those things are out of range because of only two reasons: chronic nutrient deficiencies and toxin overload. No one's measuring the chronic nutrient deficiency, and everyone lies about their diet. All the studies we have, 10-year Yale cancer study, Stanford, Harvard, Texas Tech Medical School, they all say the same thing. We're creating confirmation bias about your diet and lifestyle. Like, put your hand on the device, we have a definitive answer for you. Are your cells getting what they need? Yes or no, definitively. And we can track your progress or your lack of progress. And some of my providers put it in their soap notes. When they have a patient customer that's scores low, they will say, and they're refusing to go on supplementation or make dietary changes, they put that in their note. They're like, patient is malnourished chronically, and they are refusing care and nutritional intervention because they take it that
Mm.
seriously. The ones that understand what it is in science, that's the impact. But yeah, it's getting out of my own way, realizing that I'm the problem and I need to take action, learn something, and then not be afraid about being authentic about the truth about nutrition and science and help other people create a thriving business or an adjunct in their business. Um, Now I filmed a documentary that'll be out on Amazon Prime this December, part of the Biohack Yourself platform. Um, it's the next one's called Shield, like the word she and the word heal pushed together. It's the largest women's health documentary ever filmed. I got picked up with my business partner, Dr. Steve. First time this device will ever be like mass marketed, 15 countries, international. We're gonna do some crazy stuff with AI and make me speak Italian and Mandarin and all that fun stuff.
So is the device itself just a measuring device, or is it a therapeutic as well, or does that happen with supplementation?
Supplementation. Yeah, they have
Mm.
a money back guarantee with supplements that replace chronic nutrient deficiencies because we can measure the components of the supplements in the cell. They're measuring specific types
Mhm.
of antioxidants and carotenoids that are signaling molecules for pollination and the exchange from God and universe and Mother Nature, right? Like, why is an apple red and an orange and grapes have color? Because they're signals to our eyes to exchange nutrient density for pollination with the ecosystem. We can't keep getting farther away from nature. Like nature was always the original medicine, but now in the
Yeah.
modern world, because of modern toxins that we have 84,000 chemicals have been mixed together, and you have no studies on their compounding effect on our biology, and our food is less and less nutrient dense. After measuring 26 million people, 95% don't measure up. They're literally starving at the cell level.
Interesting. So, um, in terms of how it measures, is that like a electromagnetic kind of phenomenon, or is it some kind
Raman,
of light infrared?
yeah, light. It's called Raman spectroscopy. It's the same way that the pulse oximeter works. The little red light that goes on your finger
Yeah.
measures
Yeah.
oxygen in real time.
Hmm.
Exact same. Raman spectroscopy won the Nobel Prize for physics in 1930. It's not new tech, it's just a new application. Raman spectroscopy is in the Hubble telescope, it's on the Mars rover, it's used in biochemical manufacturing and research all over the world. Anyone who works with lasers or in a lab is familiar with it because we can measure with crazy accuracy down to the molecule of parts per billion. That's where it's different than traditional Chinese medicine, where you're doing like an herb extraction. They're going a step further and applying traditional medicine, but with a Western approach of no, give me the exact molecule, the exact compound in that herb, in that fruit, in that fungus, and let's standardize it so it's stable like a pharmaceutical drug, a supplement, um, but it's over the counter, right? There's no side effects here, and it's PDR listed, so they don't have side effects. Like, they take that more serious than any drug company does because that's their whole take. It's like, no, this is pharmaceutical grade nutrition that people need for targeted therapeutics. Not all these things are forever. Sometimes you just need to target like antigens that are bidirectional immune modulators or anthocyanins that restore leaky gut, things like that.
So you're using the same device both to test people's health as well as to come up with the extractions that you use for the supplementation?
Not to come up with the extractions. They were already formulating, and then they acquired the patent to the device, which validated their works with antioxidants. Because that term is tossed
Interesting.
around like candy, and that's why I
Yeah.
went back to school for nutrition and biochem genetics, because no one could tell me what the hell an antioxidant was. and it's tossed around like, oh yeah, high in antioxidants, you need those, are good. It's like, well, what are they? Can anyone tell me like what it is? Like now I can tell you at a subatomic level, but it's like species of fish or primates. There's hundreds and thousands of different types of antioxidants and subcategories like polyphenols and carotenoids and flavonoids, and each one has different mechanisms of action. Like I just said, anthocyanin, that's purple pigment in all food. Blueberries, beets, black currant, black rice, bilberry, the list goes on. But each one of those different anthocyanins has a different mechanism of action. So you have to get, I mean, that's what Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine studied, was like, oh, these herbs, these extracts of this fruit or plant, we know it does this. And if you make it in a hot way or a cold way, or, dry fry it, you have different properties of it. But this is another level where there's like, no, we want that particular molecule that we can standardize and extract so it's safe. Um, yeah, I hope that clears it up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting. I had no idea who I was getting into a conversation with.
I say same, right? Like you never
Yeah,
know what's on the menu until you start talking, and
yeah,
dang.
yeah. That's very cool. I dig it. I dig it. I think it's interesting that there do seem to be overlaps between what you're doing and Ayurvedic and TCM. That I think from their perspective, they would describe it in language that is a little different. Obviously, when you're talking about the energetics of things and something that has as long a history as Chinese medicine, sounds very strange to us to talk about qi and jing and things like this. We don't really know what that means, and it tends to have they give it sort of reverence that is like an implied esotericism or spirituality or something to that. But literally, I think it's totally possible to map it out in a way that is more scientific than that. If you're trying to increase the flow of XYZ, then there should be something that can be measured or identified that's connected to that, whether it's the direct mechanism of action in the thing itself, or it's the surrounding wake that is created by
Yeah.
that mechanism of action.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to say physics is the math of how matter moves.
Mhm.
Whether that everything's frequency. So in Raman spectroscopy, you're measuring the right wavelength of light is dialed into the frequency of the electrons of the molecule of oxygen. That's how that works. So you're talking about infrared and these gamma, these different spectrums that we necessarily can't see, but we know exist. And it's like, we're bioelectrical magnetic beings. Of course, there's a
Mhm.
flow of the electrical current and a flow of the magnetism, and like, yeah, some call it chi, some call it, meridian. There's all these different verbiage, but it just depends on who you're talking to. And that's what I love about my work and just my experiences. I've worked with shamans, I've worked with TMC, I've worked with all different types of practitioners, and you start to see the same patterns through these systems to explain the life, like how the body and mind connection work. And you can never outrun bad thought. Like thought is a signal, it's an input, and at the end of the day we're talking about inputs. And I love the etymology of the word diet, where diet truly means in Mandarin, in Latin, in Hebrew pictographs, hieroglyphics, it means way of life, and translates to I have a plan. Everything that I assimilate that makes me breathe easier, restrict all else, and then my purpose is found. That's literally the definition, the etymology of diet. So it's far more than just good food or junk food. It's also junk music, media, conversations that you participate in, how you show up in your relationships, your literal belief system. Do you believe in love versus fear? And discipline is self-love. Like if you're marriage, relationship, parenting, good science, you have to meet people's pain with compassion. And that's what self-love is you're in a relationship with yourself. Sometimes you got to tell yourself the hard thing. It's
Yeah.
it's not just fluffy, nice pink rainbows and hearts and flowers. It's like, hey man, you haven't really been taking on action on this. You want things to change, but you're not actually taking any action. You're not doing anything about it. You're just complaining about it. or being the victim about it versus taking the action about it. Because all problems are solved by massive action. Sometimes that action is removing yourself from the scenario or situation, but taking action nonetheless.
Yeah, cool. That that aligns. I work with a teacher called Luhan Matus. He has a company called Parallel Perception, and he teaches the movement system. And he's also described as like a intuitive empath, and so he works with subtle energies and that kind of stuff. I know this sounds really woo woo,
Oh,
but is
I'm totally
the
fine with it. Doesn't sound woo at all to me.
yeah.
Yeah,
The prescription is movement. That's even in TCM, you can either treat the inside from the outside, or you can treat the outside from the inside, and everything, every combination in between. But it fundamentally it's just calling your attention to something that we've all lost track of. In his system, we literally have energy pathways that there is language to describe the energetics of the different things that he's talking about, but most even TCM practitioners, we may have covered it at some point in school, but not in any kind of a depth that a Western mind could identify with, or fit it into some framework that is relevant. But from his point of view, we have essentially these vestigial arcane energy pathways that have depreciated to the point where they're not active anymore. And so in Chinese medicine, you have what they call the three burners. You have the Dantian in Ayurvedic, you have the solar plexus, and or the heart chakra actually is the middle burner, and then you have one
yeah,
kind of where the yin tong is. And the Dantian is meant to be a power source that we're that's kind of where we should this is a silly analogy, but I don't know if you're ever into comic books, but there was a character called Spawn, and he was kind of a demonic entity, went to hell, and he becomes a superhero, and he has powers from hell. but
mhm,
but the more he uses them, the more he loses them, and if he keeps on that path, eventually he's just going to go back to hell, which he doesn't want to do for obvious reasons. But his suit is also embodied with its own power, and so through the stories he has to learn how to use the suit's power as opposed to his magic powers. And it's the same in the body, is this idea that we should be operating from a power center like our Dantian, but instead it's not active in most people, and so you have to learn how to reawaken it through these movements. And I think that's true. The fascia is another one that is widely and broadly misunderstood. That
yeah,
I saw a documentary once on these mountain people who could jump up the mountains like the mountain goats could, that they herded, and without any fatigue. And so they brought in a bunch of scientists to try to understand why they weren't having muscle fatigue from doing some things that seemed impossible. And their explanation of it was that they don't use strength, they use flexibility. That it's essentially stretching and releasing the bands of their fascia in order to produce mechanical movement.
yeah.
And that's not something that we know how to do. It maybe gymnasts do, but we're martial artists, but outside of that, it's not something that's taught. So obviously I'm geeking out, and
Oh no, I love it. I mean, I'm a huge comic book nerd, a huge anime nerd. Uh,
I'm
movement is my medicine. I'm 43 and I have gymnastics rings in my backyard, and I can still pistol squat ass to grass and even hold some weight doing it. It's like my college buddy and I would always say, if there's anything you can do in life that makes you more like a comic book character or an anime character, do it. Like that's how you level up in life is learning, acquiring another skill, whether it's metaphysical, mental, or physical, is like become superhuman. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the whole like goal. I love it. I mean, I, I've gotten to shaman my shaman. I've used what is it? Moxie or Moxa?
Moxa,
Yeah,
yeah.
Moxa. Like haven't done that on the newborn yet. We have a 7 month old.
Oh,
But
congrats.
I mean, yeah, it's like some of it just works. And fascia, I describe it as spidey sense. It's
Hmm.
made of structured water. It's attached to your nervous system and every organ. People have reflexes sometimes and don't realize it because it's your fascia sensing something. It's a sensory organ. It senses the
Hmm.
other frequencies and energies that your eyes, ears, nose, and mouth can't sense and feel, and actually gives your body instructions to either produce things or to react to things. Amazing. But yeah, I met Gary from Human Garage. Uh, One of my buddies works with Human Garage and does the whole like hydrogen water stuff with him and structured water stuff with him. It's amazing. And yeah, Gary was like, yeah, your muscles aren't tight. Your muscles actually move. They're limber. He's like, that's good. He's like, especially for being a big guy. He's like, I used to be a bodybuilder, and so did the missus, but that's long past, and now we're back down to our normal sizes, you know.
Yeah, cool. So, if I may, can we shift directions a little bit? I'm curious about the business side of what you do and how you've been able to. I think the first time I reached out to you, you were in a different situation. It seems like you everything's sort of catching wind for
Yeah.
you, and you mentioned that you've had some viral posts, and your following is just kind of blowing up. And what do you attribute to where things are going, and how you found success?
I mean, discipline, consistency. It's like you can talk about something every once in a while, but if you're regarding social media, people need to see that you're being consistent. You don't want to go to the person that's trying to sell water, but they only talk about water here and there. They want to know that you're talking about water all the time. So I'm
Yeah,
talking about health all the time. I'm talking about issues with health and solutions with health or awareness about things that are going on in the health world, um, and being authentic about it. I'm not
yeah,
trying to overly sell something. I'm just saying here's what some science says. Here's what some research says. Here's something to be aware of, or here's like a myth. Here's a marketing myth of people trying to sell you on all these methylated things for MTFHR when no one has it or they don't. It's how severe they have it because there's multiple genes in that pathway. Things like that, just educational. Um, but that's it. Just authenticity. I mean, affirmations. Not giving up on myself and believing in myself, and just like really that Joe Dispenza level stuff of what does it feel like to be successful? Embody that and fake it till I make it till I am that version that I've completely converged with that person. And now there's new goals. Now there's, well, how do I expand beyond this? Whereas looking back, I wanted to be where I am now a year ago. And so now it's time to evolve and continue to grow because movement is medicine, right? And that same thing for a business. A good business thrives on the edge of chaos. So it's chaotic. I have a lot of appointments. I have a lot of people I'm talking to. Film the
yeah,
documentary, building out CRMs and automations so that I can hand over to other practitioners, influencers, coaches, everyone that's white labeled for them. It's more than me. How do I help other people do this too?
very cool. So, is it primarily organic content that you're posting? Do you run any ads?
Never run a single ad.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
And
amazing. I think people don't believe that it's possible anymore. I think they feel like there was a wave in the early days of social media and gone are those days kind of thing.
now it's
Um,
I mean, I get a lot of people, pressuring me to do that, or a lot of cold calls. People are like, "Yeah, I'm a meta ad specialist," and all this stuff. I was like, I don't have a problem with that. I have plenty of calls. What
yeah,
I have a problem with is scale, and we use Go High Level for our system, and we're building things in Go High Level that no one's built before. We have the owner of Go High Level on speed dial because we're
nice.
applying things that are not just for one business, but for anyone who comes into the business so they can label it as their own and build on that. Yeah, I think it's actually social media marketing is bigger than it's ever been. And when you start paying for it, um, or getting like everyone sells you like bots and likes and all this stuff, and it's like that's not organic. Like really, just be yourself. And a big following doesn't mean anything. I am friends with a lot of people that have a small following and have really high engagement that drives their business because they're authentic. That's it.
Right.
If I mean, I
Yeah.
really know people that have like 2,000 followers and are pulling in well over 10K a month just from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think authenticity is something that started to come. I This sounds weird to say, but sort of like come into vogue as Gary Vaynerchuk was emerging as somebody that everybody knew about and being like a entrepreneur, something that was whatever, sexy, popular, the new celebrities of our time. And then the companies all grabbed onto that and tried to math it, like turn authenticity into a formula. And so obviously, if you're using talking points and you're using frameworks and you turn it into what's essentially a script, then you lose the authenticity. And I think that is it you can it's like with martial arts, right? you, you have to learn the forms and you have to
Yeah.
practice them so many times that if you get into a fight, you're not thinking about the forms. You've baked it into your muscle memory. But then there comes a point where the only way through or to the next level is to let go of the forms, and that applies in every aspect of life. That whether you're doing marketing or doing martial arts, authenticity is key. I love that you said all of that, and also my company is a high level company, so I would love to have kind of a side conversation with you about what you're doing with it. Um, but
Authenticity
yeah,
is when you leave everything else behind. And as a society, we're also starved of authenticity because we fall victim for the person who speaks the most passionately about something. When we don't understand all the verbiage that's being used, whether it's science or spirituality or whatever, fascia or PT stuff, it's like, oh, I agree with that person's energy. So I don't fully understand everything, but yeah, I'm sold. Give me that thing. But it's also, on a side note, I'm a big fan of Robert Edward Grant, right? And polymath and all these great math that's illustrating that the universe is not random, that there's a pattern to things. So there is a pattern to speech. 100%
mhm,
is. And he had a quasi equation that he posted. It was about the ratio between Earth and the sun, and Earth to the moon, and the diameters of the sun in relationship to the moon and Earth. So I was like, oh, that's wild. It's crazy. Copy and paste, plug it in Chat GPT, and I said, apply that to language. And there's absolutely the golden ratio in verbiage and stance, and stances of three. And the Fibonacci sequence is I'm going to misquote it, 116 or 113. But if your sentences get longer in stances of three, where our subconscious is programmed to absorb that information easier, or stances of three. And what I realized is I was developing some of these skills because I learned that they would just flow. But a good songwriter, a good speaker, Martin Luther King, um, fancy slogans like "I'm loving it," three connotations. Nike, just do it. I have a dream, three consonation things. So there actually is math to language that helps all of us absorb the information. And um, I've actually plugged that into a formula. So when they do write a script, and when I did this AI, I was like, oh yeah, marketing has known this for a very long time and uses it in creating songs for the mass public and commercial ads and the whole nine. And it was funny that I was stumbling upon that myself and then found it. I was like, oh wow, that makes a lot more sense.
yeah. Yeah, I went to a conference and there was a guy talking about the essentially buyer psychology and how advanced the science of that has become, to the point that they can do things now where you're being sent constant subliminal messaging through the things that you assume are kind of organically finding you through social media apps and that kind of stuff. So that all of a sudden, you suddenly want a cheeseburger, and specifically one from XYZ, burger joint across the street. And you don't even know that you're being programmed in that because it's so subliminal. And so obviously there needs to be a conversation at some point about the efficacy of that. If we can understand the mechanisms so well that we can use them nefariously, then you know what do we do with that information? I don't think it's good to keep uh, hacking people's psychology in that way just to get them to spend money. But um, it's probably important to arm yourself with some of that knowledge in order to know what you're being subjected to, if nothing else, and to try to actually practice authenticity, because that's the winner. You know.
I love like
Well,
people ask me all the time, like, well, I don't have your way of saying it, your brain. I was like, but that's the point. It'd be really boring if we're all saying it the same way.
yeah,
Yeah, I can
for
say the
sure.
exact same stuff, but half the people like the way I say it, half the people like the way you say it.
Yeah, love that. Well, Ryan, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. Yeah, like I said, I'm still kind of figuring out the structure and the format of how I'm going to deliver this and what I'm going to make the podcast ultimately about. But we've covered a lot of bases here. It's been super interesting. I would even like to have a follow-up conversation with you about some of the things that we didn't get too far into.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I appreciate your time, and maybe we should meet up at some point since we're neighbors. All right, awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was great connecting with someone else like-minded and clearly doing some cool things. And
Yeah, absolutely,
I look forward to
absolutely,
the next
very cool,
conversation, man.
for sure. Me too. All right,
Yeah,
brother. Well, I appreciate it.
likewise.
I'll talk to you soon. All right, take care.
See ya.
Bye.